Research and development fuels product innovation. Explore how R&D affects all aspects of business strategy and discover best practices to bring to market products with a foundation of strong science. This is SupplySide R&D Insights, the global experience.
In an increasingly global marketplace, supply chains are more interconnected than ever before. Suppliers and buyers have to take extra care to monitor the quality of their ingredients, aiming to deliver the highest quality products to consumers. However, at a time when the US FDA is cracking down on adulterated ingredients, when Dateline NBC is exposing concerns with laboratory testing practices, and when companies are facing federal action for not complying with mandatory good manufacturing practices, it can seem like the dietary supplement industry is full of problems. What you don't hear about are the companies that are doing it right, the ones that are committed to researching the efficacy of ingredients and developing products that truly make a difference to health and well-being. There are companies around the world that are investing in R&D and raising the quality bar for the industry. That's the reason we've journeyed to Milan, the industrial, commercial, and financial center of Italy. Founded at the crossroads of commerce and culture, Milan was an agrarian community that expanded through the years and is home to some of the most innovative thinkers in commerce. From Alfa Romeo to the Campari Group, Prada and Versace to Giuseppe Verdi, this city blends tradition with innovation, exploring how new techniques can change the world. I'm John Benninger with my colleague Heather Granato from R&D Insights, and we're here to tell you the rest of the story about R&D.
This edition of SupplySide R&D Insights Global Experience will take you from the farms around Verona into quality control laboratories and production facilities operating in compliance with the highest of regulatory requirements. You'll learn how R&D best practices can be integrated throughout the supply chain. This is not a new concept. In Milan, Italy, more than 90 years ago, Carlo Boccaccio Inverni and Biagio Alberto della Beffa had a desire to research the benefits of botanicals and develop both knowledge and products that could be shared with the world. Today, Dario Bonacorsi is the president of Indina, still a privately owned firm, but with nearly 800 employees, more than 100 of whom are PhD-level scientists working in research and development, quality assurance, and quality control. Dario explained Indina still emphasizes R&D, investing more than 8% of its total annual sales volume into research. Its emphasis on research includes screening medicinal plants from around the world for pharmacological benefits, identifying new active principles, and developing cutting-edge extraction and purification systems for industrial applications.
The company was already globalized since the beginning of its activity. Why? Because we sourced our, let me say, starting material that are medicinal plants from all the 5 continents and selling our product all over, let me say, the 5 continents. And so the company was, let me say, always, let me say, looking to the first 2 parameters I named you in the beginning, to be a company looking for quality, safety, and activity of the product that had been produced.
Suppliers like Indina that are doing it right are focused on excellence, which demands a commitment from the entire organization. It means investing in quality certifications, whether ISO, HACCP, or GMP, and then ensuring everyone in the company follows the highest level of quality throughout the process.
The reason why good agriculture and ecological practices are performed to guarantee that the plant material, when we analyzed, have high percentage of probability to produce the product with successful results. The GMP also ensure the product is free of contaminants, and at the end the control are performed along all the process, so that we ensure that at the end the product we have the final specifications.
It might seem obvious, but the quality of the finished ingredient really has to start with the source material. The quality of herbal materials and the control over how they are produced and harvested makes a huge difference. Renato Aguera, Plant Material Purchasing Manager, explained Indina's suppliers are audited and qualified, which is the base of the traceability system. By following good agricultural practices, the company has traceability back to the fields, ensuring the supply chain is under control. Suppliers are working with farmers around the world and those just in the company's backyard. In fact, the close proximity allows some experimentation with how to maximize the potential of the botanical material. So we're here in Verona, Italy, and I'm standing in front of a ginkgo plantation that Indina has produced, the ginkgo biloba. It's an amazing plant, actually, and it has a long history. It's in fact the oldest tree on the planet. It dates back nearly 300 million years. In fact, it was here before the dinosaurs were here, and it's obviously still here long after they were gone. All right, so Renato, you're the top botanist here at Indina. We're standing in the middle of a giant field of ginkgo biloba. I have to ask, when I first came, I thought we would be standing underneath the ginkgo biloba, but in fact we're looking down on the ginkgo biloba. Why are they so short?
The reason is because we used to cut the plant every year to permit the plant to have more concentration of ginkgo bone glucoside and terpenes in the leaves.
So on this side here, what they're doing is growing them to this height, and then they pull the leaves off. If we look over here, you see the shorter ginkgo biloba plants, and what they're doing there is a new technique where they're at the end, after each autumn, they cut them down to about so high, and they take all the leaves off, and then what they're finding is that the ginkgo biloba grows back, and when it grows back very fast. It produces a lot of leaves, and in fact produces even more of the active constituents by doing it that way. So an experiment R&D in process right here in the field with what is actually a living fossil, a botanical wonder of the world, the ginkgo biloba. Once the plant material is harvested, it's transferred to the appropriate production facility where it will be ultimately turned into a final extracted material. First, however, the big bags, each one of which holds about 500 kilos of vegetable material, are put into quarantine, where they will remain until the QC team finishes identification. Information from the QC team will be included on the label of the material to allow it to be tracked throughout the process. The QC department uses pharmacopoeial methods to correctly identify each botanical. Its herbarium in Satala includes more than 5,000 classified, validated botanical samples used for macroscopic identification. The QC team also makes use of microscopic methods, HPLC, and other testing and even newer techniques such as DNA testing. While Indina looks to existing methods, it's also innovating new methods, particularly in relation to standardized extracts.
A botanical extract is actually a complex mixture of molecules. And if this complex mixture of molecules is changing over the time, you are not able to guarantee that the product is safe or that it is effective, as you should have demonstrated in preclinical and clinical work. Actually, standardization means, in a global term, means identification of a particular active that is delivered at a certain quantity.
Standardization isn't as easy as you might suspect. Nicola Sardoni, Manager of Quality Control Research and Development, noted that in dealing with complex matrices, often a fully characterized standard is not available.
Ginkgo extract is characterized by a list of specifications which are addressed to certain constituents, which are those active, and of course contaminants and so on. And this is the typical quality approach for the extract, which is ginkgo extract.
Nicola explained Indina's team can tease out not only the active constituents, but even the other compounds that make up the whole herb.
Once the compound has been identified and the material cleared by QC, the production process begins. All ingredients at one time went through a pilot development, which helps to illustrate the concepts behind botanical extraction. So now we're in another very important part of the research portion of the Indina facility here at Sedala. I'm with Dr. Federico Franceschi, who's going to explain to us exactly what's going on here. It's quite interesting, and I think to some degree you're manufacturing, but on a very small scale.
Exactly, yes. We are in the development of phytochemical research, and what we do here is we scale up methods for the production from the lab scale to the pilot scale. And we are exactly simulating what is happening on the pilot scale. So here, for example, you can see we have an extractor. Inside there is some Chinese biomass, and there are fruits from a species called Lycium barbarium, and we are extracting this, and we are trying to find the best condition to scale up the process for the industrial scale. And here, for example, this is another species. We are further purifying this extract from black courage, and with this chromatography technique on silica gel, we are isolating small portion of pure molecule to check the activity of the pure molecule coming from this plant. In this lab we are working on a multigram scale, while on the pilot scale it's more a kilogram scale.
Gotcha. So it's probably much easier and much more cost effective to do the experimentation on this scale than once you go to the full scale.
Well, of course it is, but we are trying to perform the exact operation that we will do on the pilot scale.
Once a system is developed, the protocols can be scaled up and followed to the letter through production. Ingredients arrive, are put into the appropriate locations for grinding, and transferred into larger tanks for plant material extraction, reaction, and concentration of active compounds. Throughout the process, workers can keep a close eye on what is happening in any given area of the production facility through a fully integrated computer system developed to Indina's specifications and based on the previous development work. The material can then be transferred into the drying areas. The approach in the supplement ingredient areas is based on risk analysis and use of hazard analysis critical control points, or HACCP, analyzing points that require control in the process to minimize risk. In-process controls and testing by the quality assurance group throughout the production cycle ensure the material meets precise standards every time.
The main focus of the quality assurance group in Indina is to monitor the performances of our production in terms of quality and to guarantee the continuous compliance to GMP requirements.
Indina now produces ingredients for the pharmaceutical, cosmetic, and dietary supplement markets around the world. Among the well-known brands are Mirtos Select Bilberry, Luco Select Grapeseed, Meriva Bioavailable Curcumin, and Ginkgo Select from Ginkgo biloba. Setting priorities in the area of R&D is a complex task, looking at different target areas, regulatory considerations, and customer interest, as well as potential intellectual property. Dr. Paolo Morosoni is the scientific director and said product development can pose particular challenges, noting the company's development of its phytosome technology, designed to improve the absorption of polyphenols and other water-soluble flavonoids through the lipid cell membranes, began more than 30 years ago and continues to offer opportunities.
Other example, I think that we can look even at Ginkgo biloba is another good example. We started with the idea to improve bioavailability because Ginkgo ingredients are two different ingredients, family of ingredients. One is the polyphenol part and the other one is the terpenoid part. We realized the Ginkgo Select phytosome that was demonstrating to be able to improve the bioavailability of the two families of products and giving to the Ginkgo extract a new life in terms of potential use. Then we realize, I would say, even a modification of the phytosome, because we realized what we call the Virtiva, which is a phytosome of the Ginkgo extract where we changed the typology of the phospholipid part, in the sense that we substituted phosphatidylcholine with phosphatidylserine. And in that case, which is a good example of evolution of phytosomes, we practically realized a product where we were able to improve bioavailability through the compensation with phospholipids. But we also rely on the activity of phosphatidylserine, which is not merely a vehicle for Ginkgo, but even an active on his own.
In the case of Ginkgo Select Phytosome, pharmacokinetic human data supports the bioavailability improvement, with its activity supported by clinical trials and pharmacological data.
Identification according to the botanical and genomic especially is able to identify the material and develop the right product. Especially in the first phase of the development of a new product, it's very important to be sure that we are developing a new product starting from the plant that we think.
Suppliers that are committed to R&D build out portfolios full of clinical research, exploring the effects of their ingredients in vitro, in animal studies, and in human trials. All of this information can be considered intellectual property, along with the related patents and trademarks supported by those claims and trials.
The intellectual property issue is quite important part of our activity, and we think that this is an area where you have the real potentiality of defense of products that are going through a very complicated world of competitors. I think that we were probably among the first to recognize IP as a strong shield in respect of competitors and the increasing world of competitors.
Indena holds more than 150 primary patents and has published more than 700 scientific studies, both on its own and in concert with outside organizations and in cooperative ventures. In fact, R&D can be considered a two-way street. Even as research and development are taking place here in Italy, customers around the globe are experimenting with these ingredients and coming back with new ideas. Building that relationship can also lead to new innovations that can be developed in cooperation between the companies.
Indena is always very open to invite clients to visit us and to visit our manufacturing facilities. We are here today talking to you, addressing this information because we are proud to share our knowledge and our actual reality here. So they always have an open invitation to see what's going on here, which goes beyond any word that a salesperson can say. So this is another key factor that enables us to be so very well recognized and actually enables us to have our reputation with our clients.
The idea of getting on the ground to experience R&D in action and see what a supplier brings to the table is critical to building long-term relationships. We've been in Milan and Verona. We've been traveling around Italy learning about research and development and supply chain issues, and I've learned a lot.
Actually, what I found really fascinating is being able to see the supply chain from beginning all the way through to finished product. So you're actually standing in the fields with the botanist, with the farmer, and hearing about the cultivation techniques, how they're propagating, how they're actually going back to the seed source. They take it through, you're seeing the identification, all the testing that's being done, comparing it to validated samples. Then they're taking it the extraction. How do you know what the actives are? How do you ensure that it's always stable? That the actives are there every single time, particularly when you've got variation in botanical ingredients.
What we saw over the last few days was the entire supply chain, from the farm to the laboratory to the manufacturing to the ingredient that we ultimately put into the products that consumers count on.
Well, and the other part of that is throughout the research and development, they are doing the testing, but then they're also taking it the next step, clinical testing that's being done to actually prove the efficacy. So it's not just, we believe that ginkgo, because it's got a historical base for your brain and we think it makes you smarter, you can actually do scientific analysis on the ginkgo ingredients and make sure they're not only bioavailable, but they are having the health effects that you're looking for.
Yeah. And what's interesting about the ginkgo ingredients was the conversation that we had at Indena where during the 100% ingredient identification, they're not only looking for the actives and the marker compounds, there's that entire other part of the plant that they don't even know what it is, but it still has a fingerprint. So by looking at that, at that level, they can find adulteration. So maybe the ingredient that comes in has all of the marker compounds and all of the actives in the right place. But if the rest of the fingerprint of the plant doesn't match what it should, then that's an indication that adulteration might be present.
Well, and because you have to know every time that you have the same ingredient, the right ingredient, particularly as you go into clinical trials. If you're doing a different trial and the ingredients are even this much off, right, you're actually going to get a different physiological response.
Right, and that's how we bridge this gap from traditional medicine and plants to clinical science and evidence. This is how these botanicals can be trusted by the healthcare community, including the physicians, the insurance companies, and the regulators, because you know, with pharmaceuticals, you have that one molecule. It's easy to understand that one molecule, but with plants, there are thousands of molecules in there. The global marketplace has a lot to offer. Understanding a supplier's R&D commitment is smart business and affords the insight you need to make decisions about supply chain partners. SupplySide R&D Insights global experience will take you behind the scenes to set the stage for your own journey of discovery.